So we've had quite a bit of drama here this last week. Terrible, terrible drama. One morning, I was leaving town. Oh, there's my friend. Anyway, I was leaving town and took my shower, did my dishes, everything. Suddenly the water stopped working. So it was 7:30 in the morning. I had to go. I called the handyman to come check it out. And when I got home, he came over and said something had happened to the motor. So what the motor does is it does the pump, and my home tank takes water from the community tank, which is up the hill. So it takes that water, stores it in the tank, and when I turn on the water, the pump goes on and starts the process of bringing water into the house. I have things set up so instead of getting water from my personal tank, I directly get water from the big tank at the top of the hill. So I had one day of water, which was awesome because I had guests that day and we had a great time and there was water. But the next morning, I was watering and the pressure was really low. Then the water stopped. So not only was I not getting water from my tank because the motor was out, but now the water from the community tank was out. So my two water supplies, the backup and the backup, were both out. And the second one at the community tank affected most of the people on the road here because we get all our water from the community tank up at the hill. We had water intermittently. There was evidently a problem with the line and some other issues. I have my thoughts on it, but everything's okay now, so I'm just going to move on. One neighbor takes really good care of the tank, so he was up there all weekend trying to get things worked out. Some of the consequences of not having enough water during the heat dome weekend was that I could not water as much and as deeply as I wanted to. Most everything survived, but some things did not survive. I lost some strawberry plants between the heat and not being able to soak things, and some other things need to be resurrected. I thought I had lost my zucchini plant, but it came back. So I feel lucky. I think part of it is I don't get a lot of direct sunlight in the back there or on the porch, so they weren't subjected to a ton of sunlight, which would have dried them out even more. It was also personally challenging because I had to take showers all over the county. I took a shower one night at my friend's house, and then I have a gym membership, so I just showered there and just worked it out. But it was, oh gosh, not having water. I'm a real big on washing my hands and being personally clean, and you just can't do that with handy wipes. I always make sure I have a lot of bottled water on hand, so I have about 10 gallons of water, the big ones, so I had to refill those a couple times. I use those once for flushing the toilet, a couple times for watering my plants on the porch, and washing hands and stuff like that. So I was glad I had that, and I was glad I had the supermarket nearby to refill them. But it was a very long couple of days. It was about, I'd say, 3 or 4 days without reliable water, including the day that my own pump gave out. If the tripod is shaking quite a bit, the cat is jumping up and down on my lap and hitting the leg, so apologies ahead of time. Here we are. So the day after everyone's water got resolved, I went in the morning to volunteer at the food bank. Everything was fine. And as I was volunteering, one of the cars drove up, and it was somebody I know, one of my neighbors from town, and they said, "Did you know we don't have any electricity in town?" I said no. I'd been there since I left the house around 8 o'clock, and I guess the electricity went out at 9:30. So there was no electricity till about 3:30. I was not home for most of it. I did the food bank, then I had 2 deliveries. One of them was out of town, so by the time I got back, there was maybe an hour or 2 left of a power outage. When I was driving up to the house, they were checking all the lines to see what had gone wrong, and all I saw was a helicopter just coming down right over the area where I live. And sometimes you're not sure, is that a PG&E? Is it the police? Is it an ambulance? But it was PG&E. They were checking the lines. I did go down the road to my neighbors for a little bit. They had a generator attached to their There were window air conditioning unit, and they also had lots of iced tea, so that was wonderful. So this whole situation was highly discouraging and upsetting, I guess you can say. I came this close to calling my realtor and just saying, I gotta get out of here. I couldn't take it, but got through it, and I'm trying to be positive, and I'm not alone in this. I've got wonderful neighbors who we all work together, and I guess that's just part of my life up here. One thing I am going to do, I think, is add yet a third and maybe a fourth water backup here, because the water situation is, I can do without electricity. Water's a different story. So I have the community tank, which usually works 99% of the time. I have my personal tank, which usually works 99% of the time. But not having water for my plants and basic needs was definitely a problem. So I think what I'm going to be doing is getting some very large tanks, I guess 50-gallon tanks with a faucet at the bottom, maybe putting one at the bottom of the hill at the garden and putting one up here, so that if we don't have water, I have immediate access to 50 gallons of water to water my plants. I might even get a third one just to store water for things like dishes or flushing the toilet or other water needs. It would just be a very manual system, but I figure if I can put them on some cinder blocks, fill them with water, and then just have them for those emergencies. I also have a well, top of tanks. There's a well down at the bottom. It came with the property, and I don't know if it's been utilized or ever used. All the lines are in. I've never really pursued it, and I'd really like to not pursue it, but we do have a lot of groundwater, so I might at some point activate that too. One of the things I'm going to look into this year, I think, is a generator. I really didn't want to get a generator, but this water situation looks like it might make it necessary. PG&E is giving all sorts of rebates for generators to run water systems, and oh, whoops, the cat is biting me. Oh my God. I think the cat wants to play. Like, the bites aren't going through, it's just grabbing my finger. So PG&E is doing all these rebates right now for generators to keep systems going, and like hundreds of dollars of rebates. I don't know off of what. Maybe I could get a generator that's cheaper without the rebates. I don't know. I don't know much about generators, but I am going to start looking into it, especially if I get this well going again. There's a great deal of romanticism around living off-grid, and I don't even live off-grid. I'm only partially off-grid. I am attached to the power grid, the PG&E power grid. I have septic, and I have this gravity-fed water from community tank. And when everything is fine, it's fine. But when things go wrong, they go wrong in a spectacular manner. And they are up to you to fix them and figure out the problem. And sometimes I just don't want to do that. There is no public utility to call. You're really on your own. So I'm getting things back together here. There's a lot of catching up to do with the house, with the garden, with everything in between the heat and the no water and then the no electricity for a few hours. There's just a lot of catching up. So that's the scoop from here. I'm glad everything's back on. I'm glad life has returned more or less to normal. And thank you so much for watching.